Japan is notoriously known for birthing some of the weirdest, obscure and most bizarre media in the entire world, and most Western countries are considerably tame in comparison. However, there is the almost miraculous occurrence that happens once in a blue moon, and a piece of this insane obscurity is brought to the West and localised. I'm here today to talk about one such gem that was released for the Super Nintendo way back in June of 1995, known simply as EarthBound. EarthBound, known as Mother 2 in Japan, is the sequel to the Famicom exclusive, Mother. It's an RPG where you take control of Ness, a 13-year-old boy and his 3 companions as he embarks on his journey to save the world from its untimely demise. Now, I know that premise isn't breaking new grounds in terms of video game narrative, or just narrative in general, but let me explain. Whilst it may not stray far from the common RPG tropes of its era, what EarthBound offers is charm, and it oozes with it. The graphics presented in EarthBound have a distinct and endearing quality, and whilst not groundbreaking for the console compared to other titles available at the time, the colourful, goofy sprites and backgrounds work wonders for EarthBound's utter strangeness and complete bizarre world. With a colour palette that is very pastel-like and vibrant, its art direction adds a very childlike perspective of the bleak and depressing reality that is actually unravelling in the world. The graphical style perfectly complements the fact that some of the enemies are just completely absurd, just like the rest of the game really. A few examples are a vinyl record, a territorial tree, and a scalding cup of coffee. Yeah, pretty strange, right? The combat is a turn-based affair, as most RPGs of the time period were. You have your attack option, PSI, which acts as your magic attacks, and your items. The character classes that are staple of the genre are nicely spread across each of the party members you come across on your journey, and each have abilities that complement each other and become invaluable characters in your adventure and combat. Another feature which I found pretty cool, but extremely odd at the same time, was the fact that your party's health is measured on a weird ticking counter sort of thing, sort of like the price display at a petrol station. What this means is that when a fatal attack is dealt from the enemy to one of your party members, you won't die instantly. Instead, you have a small window of time, depending on the amount of HP the character has, to use a healing item or healing PSI move to save yourself. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't make the combat feel cheap by any means, as it ticks down pretty damn quickly. However, it adds a weird layer of strategy and depth to the combat system which I've never seen replicated in any other game. This, however, leads me on to one of my only critiques of the game, item management. It's so extremely clunky, and you never quite have enough space to carry the items you want. And whilst I understand it's interesting to force the player to manage their items effectively, and only deal with the absolute necessities, yeah, I get that, I really do. But when a character depends on a weapon in battle that relies on ammunition solely, which also takes up valuable inventory space, it can become more than just a minor nuisance. Aside from this, EarthBound is one of the most memorable video games I've ever played. When the ball gets going, the game never ceases to surprise you, with enemy designs varying from clever and intuitive to just downright bizarre. It'll leave you guessing as to what each area has in store for you and what enemies you'll encounter next. It's these enemy designs, attacks, and the extremely varied strategies you can approach in combat that are part of what makes EarthBound so insanely enjoyable from start to finish, and it helps stop the expected JRPG grind from losing its luster quite as quickly as other RPGs. And whilst the visual style is simplistic and the script is largely humorous and littered with jokes throughout, the game surprisingly meshes this simplistic, bizarre and childlike style with incredibly deep and mature themes. The game deals with fear, love, loss, hopelessness and growing up in extremely effective and powerful ways, and the game is heart-wrenching right up to the finale. Speaking of the finale, I won't spoil anything, but I doubt you could forget it even if you wanted to. The sense of fear is sky high, especially if you played through the translation of the original Mother. EarthBound is honestly not what you would expect when initially picking up the game. The game had an incredible emotional impact on me, and as I said, it's one of the most memorable adventures I've had the pleasure of embarking on. I would go more into detail, but I refuse to, simply because this game deserves to be played, through and through. It's an experience, and it's one worth experiencing. It's the reason why I haven't touched on the story elements or any of the game's defining moments, because I feel it would lessen the impact of them. EarthBound is one of the most surreal, bizarre games I've ever played, and it's damn good, and it has a very special place in my heart. If you have a Super Nintendo, track down a copy of the game and play it, and if you don't, was recently released on the Wii U Virtual Console, so if you own one, I implore you, please play this game. It's a slice of Japanese culture that slipped through the cracks and managed to make it to the West, and it's a shame it's sold so poorly because it's one of the most unique experiences a video game has to offer. You seriously won't regret the decision. Thanks so much for watching my video on EarthBound. If you enjoyed it, why not leave a like and let me know in the comments what you thought? And if you like, why not subscribe so that you know every time I upload a new video? Because that's cool, right? I also have a gameplay channel that you can check out. If you click the annotation on the screen, you can go to my Let's Play of Shovel Knight, and words can't describe how good that game is, so yeah, check it out. And if you want to keep up to date with what I'm doing, you can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/RadicalFyrus. Thanks again.